Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Endgame automates the hunt for both known and never-before-seen adversaries in enterprise networks. Built on unique knowledge on the adversary's tools, techniques, and tactics, Endgame's centrally managed agent prevents, detects, and responds to advanced adversaries in the earliest stages of the kill chain without prior knowledge. Endgame, automate the hunt. The average time between being hacked and realizing you've been hacked is 1 year. Can you afford to let an intruder roam your network for that long? Can your company weather the fallout when this comes to light? Black Hills Information Security can find the bad guys in your network and train you to do it yourself. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a hunt teaming engagement can help you find a persistent threat in your network.
And welcome back for Security News. But first, SANS Hackfest, November 13th through the 20th in Bethesda, Maryland, a.k.a. Washington, D.C. area. Hackfest is SANS' most offensive-focused training event of the year. It includes the 2-day summit with talks, 3 nights of net wars with Coinapalooza, where you can get all sorts of good, fun challenge coins. 1 night of Cyber City missions for as part of their Net Wars tournament stuff. Cyber City missions and a super secret challenge, all alongside 9 individual SANS courses taught by their top pen test course authors and instructors. The Hackfest Summit is November 13th through 14th. 2 days of informative and technical talks curated by SANS fellow and friend of the podcast, Mr. Ed Scotus. Paul will be presenting a talk at the summit entitled How to Defend Against Penetration Testers and Win. Register at sans.org/Hackfest17, and Security Weekly listeners can save $300 off the 2-day Hackfest Summit by using the discount code of Hackfest17 at registration. Other fun news is that yours truly will also be teaching the brand new SANS Sec 617 for the second time at Hackfest coming up in November. We did a massive rewrite. In fact, Josh and I literally came to the studio from Josh Wright's house where we finished the wireless CTF. Oh my God. We have been working on this thing for literally a month straight. And it is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Between Josh, internal conversation between Josh and I, Josh sent me an email and said, hey Larry, we have to pat ourselves on the back because Josh is this massive SANS author. And he says, this is the single largest course update I have ever completed, and thank you. And wow. Josh has been involved in just about every one of the CTFs that have been developed on the pen test side. And he says this is the single most epic and most complex CTF he's ever worked on.
So what's the answer for CTF number 1?
I honestly don't remember because we finished the end of it today. And let me tell you, Josh was very, designing the CTF, it's very much built around a theme. And I was ready to take this theme deep. Josh was like, no, that doesn't add any value to the students. Don't go that deep. I'm like, oh. So all of my answers that I populate, there's another story behind. Because Josh wouldn't let me populate that, but some of the answers are, Write down the answers and then Google them when you're done. Because it'll be fun.
A question for Josh next time you ask him, is it as leap or asleep?
It's asleep.
That's what I figured. Okay, I always said asleep. I've got a debate earlier on this. Okay,
yep, it's asleep.
All right, we're good.
It's asleep.
All right.
Not as leap, it's asleep. Yep.
That's what I said. Okay, I won $10. Thank you.
Nice. The other one, too, that Josh also wrote a tool called Cowpatty.
Yeah.
COWPATTY. And the original slides when Josh presented that was WPA and Cowpatty was capitalized. And in newer versions of the slide decks, it was capital C, all lowercase. So I would, live in class, I would hit escape on the PowerPoint presentation and retitle the slide to be capital WPA because that's how it's supposed to be.
Historical.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. You can't change it halfway through. There's no way.
No. So yeah, Hackfest should be an awesome time. I wish I could say that I knew what the super secret field trip was going to be that they do, the little challenge and stuff that they do, because they always do something fun every year. So I wish I could say I knew what it was. I don't. And if I did,
kudos.
I'd be sworn to secrecy.
Kudos to you guys and what Ed's doing. I love Ed.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there. I love Ed.
I love Ed, and maybe in unnatural ways, but he probably doesn't want me to talk about that.
Same. We can talk after this. Like when we're not streaming live, we can talk about our Ed experiences.
Do
you see all the pictures I took of Ed's butt?
Yes. Thank you for sharing, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
What's that meme? I'm going to try to fap to this. I don't know if I can fap to this, but I'm sure going to try.
He's got a great butt. Like, I mean, the dude obviously works out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question. So
he works out. He goes for a walk every morning, like early in the morning, and he used to take this photo tour of his walks every morning, and he stopped doing that, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I won his photo tour.
Yeah. In any case, what did I just do? Damn 2-finger swipe on the Mac. Dave, you and I have curated a couple of news stories from security news this week. And there's one that you and I put in common that is just last week. Was it last week or the week before? We talked about the Fappening 3.0. And, well, quite honestly, I've dubbed this as the Fappening 3.1. So what happened?
Yes. Justin Bieber, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what? Selena Gomez's Instagram account got popped.
Yep.
And on her account were posted pictures of a naked Justin Bieber. Do not want. But in all fairness, the Fappening 3.1, it allegedly wasn't tied to the quote Fappening 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. But we feel that, if we're going to be equal opportunity offenders, that we might as well call out the fact that everybody's getting pwned.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's interesting is Selena Gomez has only 125 million followers. So very small amount, only amount. And I guess the photos were from 2015. And I guess Bieber made a public statement saying that he felt super violated.
Well, yeah.
I would be too.
Yep.
Obviously a very, very horrible thing that happens to somebody. And, Bieber obviously has kind of like the bad boy mentality and everything else, and has been in prison and all the tattoos and everything. But
what? He's in prison?
Like this, he was in prison for a while. Yeah. He's told shitting on a police officer or something. Anyways.
Apparently non-consensually.
Obviously, I'm up to speed on the Bieber news.
Apparently. So if I need Bieber news, I'm going to Dave from now on.
That's right.
He's a believer.
That's right. No, but the truth of the matter is, obviously, these types of things are absolutely horrendous when it comes to those. I mean, folks storing sensitive data on their phones, thinking it's protected, and posting on their Instagram accounts and their iCloud accounts, and getting phished basically is a lot of how these things happen. They grab the accounts for phishing.
Yep.
Bad deal. And obviously those things can never be erased. They'll be out there forever.
Yep.
So something that sucks, but mental note: don't get phished.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Dave, some of the other ones that I made that there's some potential corollary to, because this is sort of just happening now and unfolding in real time. One of the other ones that I noted was that Instagram's API had some sort of apparent authentication issue just recently. Yeah. And there's some possibility that these two events may in fact be tied together.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to do I think what Instagram, I don't use it, but I believe Instagram has things like CAPTCHAs or the ability to prevent privilege reuse for like Sentry MBA and stuff like that. So you can stop automation attacks. But if their API allows authentication in the ability to brute force user accounts or phish user credentials or use previously breached dumps, there's a lot of ways that they could have gotten in. Definitely possible that they got in that way as well.
Yep. So just reading the article that I linked to there in that particular story, they state in the story, a wild guess would be some sort of authentication or token bug in the API that allowed you to access certain information about other users that you weren't supposed to be able to get access to. which may have given enough information to someone to perform some sort of social engineering to get passwords reset or something of the like.
So literally a righteous, legit hack. I mean, it's a legit hack. It doesn't sound like it was something like, credential reuse or something like that. It sounds like an actual bug.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. And then now it's lots of speculation at this point, and of course Facebook isn't saying much on it either.
Yep.
So Instagram being a Facebook-owned company. So yeah. Oops. Yeah, shit happens. And of course,
Bieber dick pics.
Yep. Hey, it happens to everybody.
Yeah,
or shouldn't happen to everybody, but it does.
But
I
do not take pictures. I do not take pictures of anything like that, right? Because first of all, no one wants to see that. Second, look at all the high profile. Quick derail here.
Yeah.
You're a celebrity. You're obviously very high up in the celebrity food chain, I guess, and a lot of celebrities are being targeted by these specific types of attacks. Mm-hmm. Do you take more pictures of yourself and put them on unprotected sites that are housed in the cloud, or B, put them in unprotected housed infrastructure in the cloud? I don't understand.
Yeah. I think the big one that is that the average user doesn't know whether they're protected or not. They think that they're on their phone, that they're theirs. They don't know whether they're getting backed up to some server or cloud service, or have no idea what's happening. And I think I think the big one is that in this modern day and age, get off my lawn! That I think folks need to realize that if they take a digital picture, assume that someone else has it.
Yes.
I don't get me wrong. I've taken pictures of my wife's butt, and I've gone, ha ha! I took a picture of your butt. Delete.
Delete.
Yeah, delete. So
delete.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially around Android. Yeah.
Oh, that deletes it for you. Delete. No. Never mind. We won't go on the Android versus Apple war because that's just not cool. So
and Android right here.
So that said, we talked about the Fappening 3.0 and we've talked about the Fappening in the past, and it's we want to be. I personally want to be very clear that it's not just women that are being targeted; that there are men. Albeit, you look at statistically, there are a heck of a lot more men in this as well. And either way, I'm not particularly happy about it. And definitely these folks are all victims.
And bad trend regardless, and I think it shows, when you become as high profile as those folks, you need to really employ a lot of education around these types of attacks, because you are going to be a target. There's no question about it. If you're a celebrity, you need to employ very specific protections against that type of attack, and keep those types of pictures, very much personal, very much, offline, and a cloud infrastructure. Absolutely horrible what these folks got to go through, and it's heinous what the folks are doing to actually hack into these systems to do it. It sucks, but we're going to see more of this.
I call for a resurgence in Polaroids and snail mail.
Absolutely. Hey, I still got my Polaroids.
Nice. That's how you had to do the old school dick pics, was the Polaroids and the snail mail, because you couldn't get Photo Hut to develop those things.
That's right. You gotta like.
Then you gotta shake it. There's so many metaphors there, right? Right. Oh god.
What's a Polaroid?
Yeah, exactly. Get off my lawn.
Get off my
lawn. All right. So what else we got there? So
is this where I take over?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Show me some love.
Sure, I'll show you some love. So interesting enough, obviously we had a really bad thing that happened with the McCain Fitzgerald, where Navy cruiser basically was going through and that rammed and we lost sailors and everything else that was occurring. Now, what's interesting about the whole issue that occurred with the Fitzgerald is that people automatically called out that it could have been a cyber attack, and so
the Fitzgerald was the first one, right?
Fitzgerald's the first one. McCain was the second one, right?
Right.
So when the Fitzgerald hit, people claimed maybe a cyber attack. Was proven. Obviously not. It was issues around the leadership on the Navy fleet.
Right. Which they dismissed some officers.
Correct. They dismissed some officers, and then you had the McCain that happened. Which this has all happened within a span of a year.
Less than
you had the McCain happen on top of that. And the first articles that came through was, hey, this could be potentially cyber attack, And it was interesting. I got calls to go on CNN and Fox, like, hey, was this a cyber attack? I'm like, listen, I have no problem going on your show, but I'm basically going to say that there's zero evidence whatsoever that any of this was, and this is all speculation, and I don't think it was personally. And it's interesting because you see, the media now latching on to anything that could be a potential, impact,
cyber
grid going down. Cyber. And that's a good thing, I suppose, from a recognition perspective that all these things are possible. But at the same time, we need to have clear evidence about what we're actually going and doing.
Absolutely.
I think the main piece of it was, just a knee jerk. And you get people in the industry feeding this. And that's one thing we need to be really clear on, folks, in this industry, is that if there's no evidence to support it, then do not go on the news and start claiming that it's possible to happen. I mean, go on there and say, hey, there's no evidence to support this. I mean, is it hypothetically possible? Maybe, but we shouldn't be, saying this is a cyber attack when there's no evidence to support that whatsoever. So it was an interesting article. They came out and said there was no evidence whatsoever that it was a cyber attack, and that there was no possibility for that occurring at that specific time. But you never know.
Right now, and that said, it didn't necessarily need to be a cyber attack. There could have been some cyber failure. They could have had a critical system fail that was responsible for navigation or steering and any of those types of things. Not been an attack, just a failure.
Absolutely. Yep. With those ships being, more and more technologically advanced and all the components you had have in them, I mean, it's absolutely possible for a glitch or a software update gone awry. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong. Incompetence, and I'm not saying that's the case from a Navy perspective, but there's a lot of safety controls that are in place to protect these types of things from happening. The fact that we've seen two very quickly in a row is probably a procedural issue that we're seeing as being a major problem within the Navy.
Yep. And well, there may be some other stuff too. And I put on my tinfoil hat and I think about what has potentially happened. And I don't want to stir up any crap or anything, but and I haven't looked because, quite honestly, I haven't cared to. But on the two incidents, I want to say that the ships that struck the two Navy vessels were both flying under Liberian flags, and some of that type of stuff is also very wishy-washy in that the change of flags of ships is fairly is common in some of the cases, in some select cases that, for all we know, they could have been North Korean ships that are now flying the Liberian flags with North Korean crew, and who knows what is going on. And that's all tinfoil hat brigade type stuff. So
can somebody get Larry a tinfoil hat real quick, just throwing that out there? Do we have a tinfoil hat?
I don't know that we have any tinfoil in the studio, but I hear the door opening. so who knows? Oh, Riley's looking for tinfoil in the supply closet right now. I can tell he's waving. So, but very much there's so many things. And Dave, exactly. If you don't have direct evidence, you can't prove any of these types of things. So
no. Yep. Agreed.
Yep. Speaking of having direct evidence, Dave, one of the ones that I found, which is a little bit older, it's probably earlier in the week type stuff. But one from Brian Krebs on some additional boarding pass shenanigans. Folks posting their boarding passes to like Twitter and Facebook and all of this type of stuff. And many folks not realizing that depending on the information that you can glean from the boarding passes and or the barcodes contained within have enough information to do a lot of doxing on yourself.
Yep.
Including folks with their the booking code, aka their PNR, their passenger name record, which in some case for British Airways, their booking code and the last name of the passenger both displayed are all someone needs to do is to log into the British Airways sites to modify those reservations, aka cancel them.
Well, don't they also put like mileage plus numbers in there and things like that as well?
Yep, absolutely. And sometimes in the cases of the QR codes, mileage plus numbers, which the mileage plus potentially and the last name in some of the airlines is all you need to log into the accounts, and you can transfer points and you can book new reservations and you can cancel and change and get additional information that has been stored to the server, say name, address, phone number, all those types of things, known traveler numbers.
What's interesting? Didn't Krebs do an article on this like back in like 2015 or 2014 or something like that?
I think so.
That outline a lot of the barcodes, but I know most of them have switched to QR codes, which still contain a large amounts of copious amounts of data,
Yes.
right?
And of course, now that they've got the QR code, they can do higher information density. So they can include more information.
Yep. So for viewers, right? Obviously, sharing that or posting your QR code, things like that, is not probably a good idea, based on a lot of the personal information that is still contained within the QR code. Now, it's still surprising to me. If you look at a lot of the airlines, they're still like mainframe, out of galore. Still very rudimentary as far as their kiosks are concerned. I mean, a lot of them are still running Windows XP. Really fragmented industry because they don't want to impact, the customer service, the quality, the flights, the sensitive systems that have that. And so, it's interesting. It's hard for them to change. You'd think that, a QR code would be kind of like a one-time password or one-time PIN where there's no sensitive information. Maybe just contains a query string parameter that's unique, and when you use it, it's done, or something like that. That has no identifiable information there. Why do you need to contain all that in there? That makes no sense in our digital age.
Right. Why do you need to have it printed right there? And I think a part of that is many of the systems that they have to use these with are not connected and don't have the availability to get the data in real time. Like what happens when you scan your barcode when you're at TSA and it tells you what the name that's encoded on the barcode and they can read it. What happens if those systems were to go down? And now
what do you do at that point?
Yeah, exactly. And then they're going to have to go to their backup plan, and that's going to be a nightmare, more than TSA already is. So I can see it, but I think there's got to be a better way.
Yep, agreed.
I really do.
Do you really?
I do.
Really?
I do. Speaking of, there's got to be a better way. Dave, tell us about some pacemakers.
Yes. So the whole pacemaker instance with the FDA recalls, this one's been interesting. So the FDA actually just released a advisory to recall the pacemakers that were going on in the Abbott's, formerly St. Jude's Medical, implantable cardiac pacemakers. And so you may not remember the whole thing, but there was a bunch of issues identified in the pacemakers themselves, and the St. Jude's came back and basically said, hey, there's, we don't believe this is exploitable. And it was wasn't it a big thing, like where they were like extorting, stock prices and things like that at the same time?
Yeah. Money waters.
At the same time. And what they actually did today was they released a firmware update to address cybersecurity issues in implantable devices. And this is really one of the first of its kind that we've ever seen. And it affects not just a small number. I mean, you're talking, was it 465,000? Yeah, 465,000 implantable devices that have critical exposures in it that can be used to possibly kill a patient. So unprecedented from that perspective. At the same time, when you have a recall and corrective action, it's like you're basically going in for a car part when you're going to replace your heart, pieces of your heart. We live in such an amazing age. And this is kind of you want to talk about future, man. I mean, think about this. I mean, in the future, maybe we have, different body parts and things like that now are susceptible to recall. Hey, there's a flaw in our design process. We now have to replace your biomedical arm that's now, not really an arm. It's more machine parts, that now have a critical flaw in it. I mean, this is a whole different area.
I'm sorry, Dave. We have to recall your hair. It's going to go gray next week.
Don't talk about my hair. My hair never is never good. My hair's never good.
Can you imagine though? Shit, Dave, we just recalled your hair, man.
Shit, I like my hair. What do I do? But it's interesting. The firmware details. This is from the FDA.gov. The firmware update requires an in-person patient visit with a health provider. It cannot be done at home. The update process takes approximately 3 minutes to complete. During this time, the device will operate in backup mode. That's so reassuring. Essential life-sustaining features remain available. As with any firmware update, there's a very low risk of an update malfunction. Based on St. Jude's Medical previous firmware update experience, installing the updated firmware could potentially result in the following malfunctions: reloading of previous firmware version due to incomplete version, loss of currently programmed device, loss of diagnostic data, complete loss of device functionality. Like,
now, Dave, on that last one is just mind-blowing to me, is the complete loss of device functionality. What does that mean? What do they have to do to fix it?
Right. If you have a pacemaker, I mean, listen, I'm not no doctor, but I actually had heart surgery before, and to me, I mean, complete loss of device functionality. I mean, you no longer have a pacemaker; it's no longer functioning, right? So, what do you do at that point? And so, hopefully, they have, come up with steps to be able to help somebody out in the event that they're going in cardiac arrest or something like that. I mean, that's
that from my understanding, in one of those types of events when you have complete loss of something like that, it would very much be a very short trip to a very large medical institution in which they are asking you to breathe into this mask and count backwards from 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's interesting, when I had my heart surgery, I was completely awake.
Right.
When I did mine. So, and they went in through my, it was called a cryoablation. They went in through my leg and they fried a bunch of nerves in my heart or whatever.
Yep. You can say, Dave, they went in through your groin. It's fine.
They did. It was to the right though. It was to the right. So I was
didn't have to adjust at all.
Didn't have to adjust. It was fine.
Awesome.
Too much information. I'll tell this offline anyway, but I'm just saying the room that I was extremely cold. And I had to basically, anyways, long story.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, parts of it were really short story, but I feel sorry for Aaron, man.
It's a very short story.
Speaking of a short story, the FCC can now host your malware and meme GIFs, as proven by Dan Tentler, who posted a cat meme to Twitter and Facebook earlier today that was hosted.
The best type of meme.
Yeah, that was hosted at the FCC's website. That was found by a 20-year-old university student. That when someone applies to put a comment onto the FCC website, I want to say that it's for some complaints. Which is, FCC takes complaints and looks at all of the stuff. As part of the comment, you can include code that will then upload the content to their servers and then host it from their server, which is publicly accessible because it's a federally funded agency and they have to make all this information available to the public. So, for example, if you were go to a comment and you were to say upload a animated GIF of cat meme, FCC would host this. If you upload an exe for, say, a Meterpreter payload, they would also host said Meterpreter payload, make it directly accessible with a link.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I don't know how that could be abused in any way, but I'm sure it's fine. That's some good reputation, by the way. I mean, you have your payload delivery through the FCC. I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm. And as they put it, they say, FCC comment system is designed to maximize inclusiveness, and part of that system is allow anyone to upload a document as a public comment. The commission.
So basically,
go ahead.
I mean, it's a free hosting provider for any command and control infrastructure that we want to host. So it's perfect, and actually even greater for phishing campaigns. Hey, go to this FCC.gov website, and all of a sudden now you have your payloads there. And
hey, by the way, a complaint has been filed against you at the FCC. Please view the complaint here at FCC.gov. Yeah.
So many good implications for this. This is amazing. They obviously thought this well. They thought it well out.
They did. According to the FCC, the commission has procedures in place to prevent malware from being uploaded to the comment system. And they're running additional scans and taking additional steps with its cloud partners to make sure that no known malware has been uploaded to the comment system. Two words: known malware.
Right. You hit it in the same.
known malware. Yeah, because you know what?
Signature-based AV detection, baby.
Yeah, because you know what, Dave? You and I have got a whole metric ass load of unknown malware, which we can generate in real time. So. And cat memes.
So listen, I got a huge stash of cat memes, so they got nothing on me on that one.
Yeah,
Can you wait? Question.
Yes.
Can I still upload cat memes, or is that considered malicious now?
I don't know. Let's see how much bandwidth we use for cat memes, and then we'll have an answer.
Let's do it.
Distributed denial of service attacks for the cat memes.
Cat memes.
Now, who are we going to?
we got to come up with a cool cat meme DDoS campaign. It's got perfect cannon.
Purgatory.
Purgatory. Let's see.
The perfect storm.
There we go. That's a good one.
A per T.
But you got to mix up the per though. You got to do like meow of doom. Meow mix. I don't know. I think about some.
What's the name of some of North Korea's missiles?
Yeah.
The meow. I don't know. The meow Taedong missile.
There we go. The meow Taedong missile sounds like a pretty awesome DDoS campaign for memes. So
now the question is, who's it DDoS? Who's it DDoSing? The FCC or someone else? Enough of that. Enough of that. Let's see. What else have you got there, Dave? I want. What is this tool that you could talk about? Besides the one in your pants.
That's a short story. Remember?
Right.
Yeah. No, one thing and this is a trusted sec tool that we just released back in it was in late July, so less than a month ago. And a couple of folks from Trusted Sec, Ben 10 and Larry Spawn or Spoonman, had been using this on pen tests a lot and had a lot of success. And kind of part of our research is when we build tools, we'll use it for a little while and then we'll release it to the public.
Yeah.
And so one of the cool things that Larry and Ben both built and is called Nps Payload. And so if you're not familiar with NPS, NPS is non-PowerShell or no PowerShell. And so if you look at like Cylance bypasses as an example, you could just rename PowerShell.exe to like moo.exe and you're all set. You can completely go around
and very much around Ben's stuff that he's talked about at DerbyCon, PowerShell without PowerShell type stuff.
Yep, exactly right. And so what Ben did is he released a tool called NPS, and what it does is it calls two main DLLs, one primarily, but it's system.management.automation.dll,
yes,
which is essentially PowerShell.
Yep.
And so instead of calling PowerShell.exe or PowerShell_ISE.exe interpreter, you use the imports for the DLL to import the Python libraries and actually, or I'm sorry, not the Python, the PowerShell libraries, and use them to execute code. Now, what Ben and Larry has done is use the MS Build technique, which is you can use MS Build, which is a code assigned Microsoft binary. This is a application whitelisting bypass. And you could call remote files, most specifically XML files that contain, specific instruction sets for MS Build. And so as part of that, Ben and Larry built this tool called Nps Payload, which will generate essentially Metasploit payloads, your own customized payloads that are embedded into this XML file that leverage NPS non-PowerShell, so they don't ever leverage PowerShell. So they're PowerShell injection techniques, through like things like Unicorn or things like that. That allow you to call remote XML files, import them directly into memory, never touching disk, and then get around application control, application whitelisting, antivirus, things like that. And so they recently released this tool. It's open source, and you can specify your own custom PS1 payloads, your own PowerShell payload, or specify Metasploit-based payloads.
Nice.
But basically, it'll automatically create the PowerShell payload, the resource script for you for Metasploit, as well as the XML file to be called via MS Build. So it's a good evasion technique to get around most of the stuff. And all you need to do is basically type in msbuild.exe space / the attacker's IP address / whatever share you're housing the XML file in, and call the XML, and it automatically loads into memory, executes your payload, and you got a shell.
Nice. Sorry, I wasn't listening for a minute there. I was watching this video at the bottom of the screen for there's lots of sexy people on there that I know and love.
What are you talking about? What sexy scram? Why am I not seeing this?
TrustedSec.com with the tool release, and you scroll down to the bottom. There's this autoplay video on the bottom there with like all these sexy people.
We call B-roll. Apparently, it's called B-roll. Those are actually legit snapshots from the office.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool stuff. Dave, awesome stuff, and congrats to Larry and Ben Even though he did Ben have to go back to elementary school this week?
He did. He's back again, but he'll be out. He'll be released this time,
Nice.
But that's the cool part. Ben's amazing, man. One of our best. But interesting for defenders. One thing we try to do is also talk about the offense, but also the defense as well. So for defenders, for Event ID 4688, you can look for MS build invocation, as well as 4104, looking for PowerShell code that's encoded. So, there are detection criteria that you can build in if you're using the Windows event forwarding, sysmon configurations, things like that. You can definitely detect this attack.
Yeah, but you got to be a little bit more sophisticated about some of that detection.
Yep. That's right. You actually have to have a group to understand that stuff. Yep.
Excellent. And so I've got one other story here, and I know you've got one more, Dave, and I think we've got just about enough time to cover them real quick. One of them is the SAP point of sale systems were totally hackable with $25 worth of stuff. Ultimately, the story is from the Register, and I didn't get to dig into it real lot just because I was really busy this afternoon. However, basically what they're saying is that a Raspberry Pi somewhere introduced into the point of sale system running SAP point of sale stuff is effectively, I'm guessing, man in the middle and being able to capture card data and send commands into the SAP system to shut down all of the point of sale terminals.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Obviously, that's the last thing you want from a cardholder perspective. If you look at like Micros or Ingenico, a lot of the other ones that are out there, NCR has a few.
Yep.
They actually do the hardware. They do hardware-based encryption on the point-of-sale device itself before it is ever passed anywhere. So it's interesting that you can man in the middle of that communication and intercept cardholder data directly through a Raspberry Pi. So I would assume that it's and I didn't fully read the article, but I would assume in order to do man in the middle attack, they're not properly doing encryption or self-signed certificates or ways of being able to do man in the middle. They're not properly transporting that cardholder data in some way, shape, or form. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no, and again, there's a ERP scan of the folks that discovered this, and they've got a video that I didn't get a chance to look, and the video is entitled "How to Buy a MacBook for $1 or Hacking SAP POS."
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they talk. Yeah, good stuff.
Has SAP fixed it?
I believe that they did. Let me look back here real quick.
I'm using Bing to check out real quick.
Yeah, let's see. All vulnerabilities in question in SAP point of sale system Retail Express server have been fixed, and security patches are available for download on the SAP support portal.
Got it. Yeah, I'm looking at this article here too. It says SAP fixed 23 vulnerabilities across roughly a dozen products on Tuesday, including the ability to gain access to a SAP point of sale, issues with the SAP point of sale, a series of missing authorization checks. Aha, there it is. Aha.
Mm-hmm.
Aha.
Yep. The technology is used by up to 80% of the retailers in the Forbes Global 2000.
Yikes. Well, at least the folks from ERP Scan did appropriate disclosure.
Yep.
That's important. That's responsible. It's good.
Absolutely. And speaking of patches and updates, Dave, your story number 5: Microsoft persuades customers to upgrade to Windows 10.
Yeah.
Do I have to? Do I have to? I'm in a Mac. I'm invincible, right?
That's right. Invincible. Yeah. Well, listen, I'll be honest, man. I'm on my last limb with Apple when it comes to my MacBook Pros. We use it, quite extensively throughout Trusted Sec, and we have hardware failures all the time.
Really?
The logic board going out all the time, and we've had like 6 of them with the latest ones as well. And so not a huge fan of the Touch Bar, might I add.
Really?
Yeah.
So
you like Touch Bar?
So I do not have a device with a touch bar. I have had a chance to play with it, and I think I would enjoy it. But for me, the most of the time, I use my Mac plugged into an external monitor, and it's closed under the desk on a shelf. So it really doesn't matter to me, I think.
For traveling consultants, I'm always like on the thing, and I always hit the Siri button, which I've disabled, but I still hit it every time. I hit Adrian's the best. Adrian will accidentally send half emails because the send button when you're in Outlook, it changes and it's up on the top.
Uh-huh.
So he'd send like half-written emails like, "Hey everybody, I'm trying to figure out." And that was it.
Awesome.
Like 6 times.
Awesome.
And then you see the next one, he's like, effing, touch bar. So not a huge fan of the touch bar personally. I think it's a new nuisance. And there are ways of configuring it to make it better. But back onto the Microsoft topic, Microsoft is really putting all their eggs in the basket when it comes to rolling updates, what they're able to do. I mean, they put a lot of mitigation techniques into like, sandboxing, heap sprays, ASLR bypasses, ROP shell code. They really try to put a lot of security into Windows 10, and they continuously, try to continuously raise the bar. So they're urging customers to go to Windows 10 as a main platform. Now, the truth of the matter is the way that most of us attack organizations is not through like direct exploits that bypass all the Windows protection systems, because those are far and few in between nowadays.
Right.
So we attack things like applications. We attack things on how Windows is designed to do from a UI perspective. We attack macros. We attack direct data types. Those types of things.
We attack how they're configured to work on the wire.
Right. So leveraging Windows 10 from an attack standpoint is no different than attacking Windows 7. We don't care.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean that Windows 10 isn't sophisticatedly more secure. I think it is. I think they put a lot of technology into that to make. But it doesn't change our attack patterns. Doesn't change what we do. So I don't know if I necessarily agree or urge. I guess if you want to run the latest and greatest, absolutely, but that's difficult for companies.
Right, and I think maybe some of this now is starting to become that we're starting to look at Windows 7 starting to become end of life, and maybe making that push to get them ahead of that. Unlike some of these things with like Windows XP that they're continuing to issue critical security patches for, even though they said they wouldn't. So.
Yeah, interesting debate there. Whether or not you release them to fix it or push people off.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is for that, but I don't see people moving to Windows 8. That's for sure. I think that's the operating system they probably want to forget.
Yeah. Oh no, Windows ME is the one they want to forget.
I still run that. Man. It's still solid. Still running today.
Dear God, you're probably the only one that has that solid install of Windows ME.
That's right. Still running Merc. Runs great.
Nice. With your egg drop bots and
that's right.
Nice.
Sub 7. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. I think Windows 10 definitely is a huge advancement. I think getting the updates quickly from Microsoft is important. Mm-hmm. But I don't from an attack standpoint, I don't see it being much different.
I agree. So Dave, just real quick on the Mac thing. The Mac that I'm using here, this is my daily driver. Is in fact a Mac, and if you do about this Mac, you can pry this thing from my cold dead hands. It is a 2.7 gigahertz Intel Core i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. It is a MacBook Pro 13-inch, early 2011.
What's absolutely astonishing about it being a 2011 is that from 2011 to now, minor differences.
Yeah.
Minor differences.
Which is,
I'm still running 16 gigs of RAM, by the way. It's the max you can get in a MacBook.
Yep.
And by the way, I bet it runs great.
It does. It does. Like I said, you can pry this thing from my cold dead hands because it's perfectly fine.
That's right.
That said, I've updated to an SSD. And I put my spinning disk where my CD-ROM used to be, because who needs one of those optical drives anymore? And unfortunately, during the show, beginning of the show, I was scrambling a little bit because my Dropbox is trying to sync, and my 1 terabyte SSD has 4.75 gigs available. This is a problem.
It's a problem.
So
that's a problem.
Yeah, I got to find some shit to delete.
Those cat memes taking up 16 gigs is probably part of it.
Well, the cat memes are on the other drive, the spinning disk drive, so that's plenty of room there. So
hot pictures of Paul, Justin Bieber, you name it.
Well, there are no hot pictures of Paul.
I would digress. Listen, Paul and I have jumped on beds together.
I know.
And there are hot pictures of Paul out there.
Okay, I just may never have seen them. I mean, I've never had an opportunity to jump on a bed with Paul or with you for that matter. So someday we'll have to change that.
Sounds like things are changing at DerbyCon.
Yeah, it sounds like we may need to make that a reality.
That's right.
Wheel a bed into the Busta Rhymes concert, and we can all jump on a bed together.
Sounds good to me. Dude, can you imagine a quadruple, you, Paul, Buster Rhymes, and myself all jumping on a bed together?
I can actually.
Why would this not happen?
I don't know. How much did you pay, Busta?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think we can get this done. I think I can figure this out. I can make this work.
You heard it here first, folks. On Security Weekly. All right. With that, Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure. I don't think I've ever been on the Security Weekly show when you've been here. I think every time you've been on, it's because I've not been here and Paul's had had a hard time getting a co-host, or just no one was available. And It's been an absolute treat. It's been fun, and I can't wait to see you and say hi and get my hug in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for having me on. Been truly a pleasure, and humbled to be on the show, and talk about DerbyCon and just having some awesome folks on the show itself. I mean, I thank you for all that you do, and having 500 plus episodes, and the folks that make Paul.com Security Weekly possible. Sorry.
Yo, Paul, $5.
I know. I owe Paul $5. And all the folks that listen, I was actually on Twitter, and Vincent Yu just said, hey, listening to the podcast, thank you for everything you guys do. And Vincent, I'm a huge fan of you as well, and all the work that you do, and Red Team tips and everything else. It's awesome stuff. Yep. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Anytime. And it's very much the converse too, is that I'm humbled every day by folks that I hear that listen to the show that are so brilliant and are look up to us, and we're just a couple of dudes that like to get together and have a couple beverage and talk security the way it's always been. And
that's it. I was that dude that got beat up every day in high school, man. I learned how to fight like no one else, and was not popular, didn't do anything else. And it's humbling to have folks that, are getting into this industry, learning, and to say that, we have a piece of security that we left our remnants on, or a little bit of knowledge, hopefully, of how to move forward is fantastic.
And being humble and willing to talk to people. Yep.
Absolutely.
If you asked me when I graduated high school and said, "Hey, do you ever see yourself doing public speaking, or being on a radio show, or doing any instruction in front of folks, a couple times a year, and being referred to as like some of the best in the industry," I'd say, "What the hell are you talking about? Public speaking? Let's start there." No,
dude.
And no.
I can't even imagine. I had one friend growing up in high school. His name was Ray DeBerry, and him and I were like the only two like nerds in our class that like stuff. And he's my only friend growing up. And it's interesting. You look at graduating high school, you're like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with my life. Yep. And I'm just gonna home in on computers. And lo and behold, we're talking to folks and we're speaking in front of people. I would have never imagined, never. And by the way, I was supposed to be out of everybody in my family, I was supposed to be the reject and the failure, right? Like everybody wasn't counting on Dave to be,
be a successful
person. I failed out of high school. I had to go to summer school just to pass, So, this is obtainable to anybody. It's a great industry, and some brilliant folks. And it's amazing what these folks learn. Look at Harmjoy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Harmjoy comes out of nowhere, releases Power Up, and then, the next year he's releasing Empire. And this dude is just absolutely freaking brilliant. And you have so many people in this industry, and Matthew Graber, and just the names go on, Sub-T, Casey Smith, that come out of nowhere, is working at a bank, and all of a sudden now is like one of the top researchers in our industry. I mean, that's what's so cool about this place, in this industry, is the community and learning off of each other and just being humble and kicking ass. Yep.
And to that,
that's my tirade.
And it's a damn good tirade. So with that, let's call it a night. Dave, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you soon at DerbyCon. And Dave, do you remember how to take us out?
What?
Do you remember how to take us out?
No, it's been a while.
You say over and out.
Over and out.
Yes.